Hi everyone, and welcome back to Centre of Excellence Explained. Today I'm joined by Ross McAllister, our Regional Director in the UK. And hi Ross, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me, Stuart.
Very good to have you here, Ross. I appreciate it. So, Ross, the last episode we spoke to George about the benefits of a Centre of Excellence and the value that it can bring to your organisation. However, those benefits won't be realised if you don't have good communications and a good communication strategy in place. So, could you first of all explain why it's so important to have good communication within your Centre of Excellence?
Okay. I think one of the main reasons why communication is so important for a centre of excellence, particularly around the field and industry of automation, is there's a lot of misinformation or misconceptions around automation and a lot of fear that comes from that as well. You may have seen things out there around the robots are coming, or everyone's work's going to be replaced by robots, and I think what's important is to calm some of those fears down and to understand that the COE's job is not there to replace people with physical or virtual machines. It's there to enable people and help, give them time back to focus on higher value activities. I think a clear or a good communication strategy as well, it inspires people and it excites them about the future. They understand what it is that you're trying to achieve currently, and then they get quite excited about where you can go over the next year or two. And also for me, it's given people clear and upfront messaging around the role of a centre of excellence, the role of the people within that COE, the objectives, and also what that means for the person on the ground or the stakeholder. So for me, it helps to calm the fear and also manages people's expectations.
So Ross, you'd mentioned a strategy there. So what would a communication strategy look like in a COE?
Yeah, it's a good question. So if you think of the purpose of a centre of excellence, which you maybe covered in some of your previous topics, it's there to coordinate and govern activities across the enterprise. So a good communication strategy covers all the various people within that business, including external partners and suppliers. And it makes sure that your C-suite, right down to the human user who's working at the operational level, they are all aligned and on board with what it is that the COE is trying to achieve. Now, that could be to grow the business, reduce costs, it could be improve customer experience, it could be all of the above. And a good communication strategy will tackle each of those individuals or groups of individuals and give them specific messaging that aligns to their needs and wants. And what I mean by that is the C-suite, who organise and coordinate the business or run the business essentially, have different goals and priorities from the advisor and the operations level. So a clear comm strategy will break down each of those groups. It will give them clear messages. It will dictate when and where those messages or communications are going to take place, and then ultimately who is responsible for delivering those messages.
Thanks, Ross. So there's quite a lot in there. So if I'm working in an automation program or running a centre of excellence, can you kind of give us an idea of how that would be structured?
Yeah, so certainly if you think about the COE, they may have multiple projects or one big program of work. The way that I've run it in the past previously is if you're running a project, you may have, for instance, a morning stand-up with the project team. In that morning stand-up, you focus on the daily tasks or priorities of the day. So that could be closing out requirements, it could be finalising development on a particular piece of code. Then within your daily stand-ups, they might roll up into a weekly meeting where you align against plan with the project team. So that are we on plan, are we on budget? And then right through into a monthly or quarterly steering group that may be with some of the project team, but with more senior individuals in the organisation, where it's about setting the strategy and the overall ambition and objectives over the next quarter or the next year. So each of those meetings or communications has a place, and they all roll up into one, but the messaging at each of those is different. So at the daily, it's very much task driven. at the monthly or quarterly steering. It's very much high level, big picture thinking, given the succinct messaging around on time, to budget, quality and cost.
Cool, excellent. So Ross, I think you've already covered this in some of your answers, but what would be the kind of overall benefits of having a comm strategy in place in that structure?
Yeah, I think it's really simple actually. It's about making sure that everyone is aligned to what it is that you're trying to achieve. You may think that someone is aligned to your goals, but until you actually ask them, are they on the same page as you? So having a good communication strategy means that, and it's the purpose of a COE, everyone understands what it is there to do. Everyone understands that why you're turning up at their desk or setting a Teams call to ask about a process, and why you are trying to introduce automation or scale automation across the enterprise. So the biggest thing for me is make sure people are aligned, it's managing their expectations, and it's setting the vision for the future so that people become behind that and they want to be on board with what you're trying to do. So what you're actually doing is evangelizing and creating champions in the organization rather than people who are blocking you and fearful and resistant.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is it's about empowering people, and I think we've had this conversation before where a lot of the kind of best ideas in terms of what to automate next comes from the people on the ground doing the job day in, day out. So I think what you've said makes absolute sense. Ross, I think we've more or less covered everything. I do really appreciate your time, and thanks everybody again for joining us.
Okay, well thanks very much for having me, Stuart.
Okay guys, speak soon. Thank you.